So here we have it, everybody. This is the iPhone 14 Plus in that new bluish colorway that I'm excited to unbox and talk about a little bit, because a lot of people are confused about this 14 Plus. You know, I'm also confused about it as well in terms of who this is for exactly, because from the price point and where it stands up in the lineup, and then if you compare it to the rest of this smartphone world, even if you go into the Android world, this might not seem like the best value, but I do think that by the end of its cycle, so about next year in August and September timeframe, this could be the best-selling iPhone to date, and I'm going to explain why. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
Are you looking to avoid paying thousands of dollars for licensed Pro Mac apps? Well, channel sponsor Setapp is an awesome platform that makes it super easy to discover new apps and tools you need to stay efficient. There are new applications being added to Setapp regularly, so there's always more to look forward to. And in addition to all these apps being the full Pro versions, all updates to these applications are free. With Smart Search, you can simply type in a task you're looking to accomplish, and Setapp will present you with a selection of great options you can choose from to get the job done. And then you've got Collections, which gives you an assortment of pre-made app packages to help you solve a task, get more organized, and increase your productivity. And if you want to take your project off of the Mac and onto your iPhone, you're able to do so with support for compatible iOS companion applications. As opposed to paying $8,000 in licenses, Setapp is just $9.99 per month, and users can try Setapp for free for 1 week to see how well it works for you. Be sure to check out the link to Setapp in the description below, and a big thanks to MacPaw for sponsoring 9 to 5 Mac on YouTube.
Okay, so here we have it, everybody. I actually pulled out the iPhone 14 Pro Max right here, which you guys can see, to compare it in terms of size and width and camera size. And then we also have a 13 regular. So this is an iPhone 13 from last year, which is still being used by my wife. So these are all still very new and valid phones. But let's unbox this 14 Plus and see exactly what we're dealing with. So I did already remove this little strip right here, as you guys can see. And in classic Apple fashion, here it is. You just kind of move these out of the way. It's a nice little unboxing experience. We'll pull this out. We'll move this to the side. And then here's the box compared to the 14 Pro Max box. So they look to be the same exact size. Obviously the phones are different. The width is exactly the same. You can see that the actual font color is different. So we did get this in that new blue colorway. So we have the iPhone in that blue font. And then we have the iPhone in the black font for the space black color that we got this year. So let's unbox this thing. Here we go. Let's open it this way so the other camera can see it too. And hello there, blue. So this looks to be the new blue colorway. I forget exactly what Apple's calling this color, if it's just blue or they have some cool name for this blue color, but I'll put it on the screen for that actual name of the color. And then obviously we just have the design by Apple in California. Do we get blue stickers? No, we don't. We get the classic white stickers. So if you guys are looking to get this iPhone just for the blue stickers, sorry to burst your bubble. Let's move this off to the side. Let's peel this guy off. And I did want to compare the size, like I said. So here we have the iPhone 14 Pro Max in my left hand, and then you have the 14 Plus. So in terms of thickness, I don't know, it looks like the 14 Plus is a tiny bit thicker just based on what I'm seeing right here. I don't know if you guys can see that clearly. The antenna bands seem to line up nicely. You have this kind of nice deep blue color, which is very, very visible. I feel like the blue color that we got for the iPhone 12s about 2 years ago, and then the color that we got this year with the purple color. In the Pro variants, the colors don't really pop out as much, but you can see that this blue really does pop out compared to the space black. And then we have it compared to, I believe this is the Starlight color of the iPhone 13. Looks like the camera modules are a little bit different. The cameras are a little bit bigger actually on the 14 Plus, which is expected. But other than that, you can't really tell a difference in terms of what the actual phone is. Like if this was the blue iPhone, or if I got this in Starlight, then they would look relatively the same in terms of design, color, shape, and all that good stuff. Except here in the US, you can see that we have a SIM card tray on the 13 and no SIM card tray anywhere to be found on the actual 14 Plus. Another thing that we did notice is that the actual antenna band down here for the 5G is a little bit bigger on the actual 14 Plus. The hold button is the same size. Antenna bands are in the same locations, volume rockers are in the same orientation, and they're in the same size. Again, we're just missing that SIM card tray. And then obviously on the bottom you have the same grills, but you have a couple extra grills on the bigger phone because there is more space. So we're going to get this thing set up off camera, and then we're going to talk about who this iPhone is for, because again, this is the first time Apple's making an iPhone regular, but in the premium size. Normally you would have to go all the way to the Pro Max to get the biggest screen real estate in terms of screen size, but now you can actually spend $200 less and get this thing for $900, which again comes with its own form of controversy. Some people are a little iffy about it, but let's get this thing set up. So now that we have this thing unboxed and getting set up, there were reports that the iPhone 14 Plus actually had the worst numbers in terms of reservation when it came to this entire lineup. So obviously the Pro and Pro Max were the most reserved and most pre-ordered iPhones, and still right now the most used and most purchased iPhones in terms of the 14 lineup. And then you have the iPhone 14 and then the 14 Plus with this weird staggered release date that we had when it came out on October 7th compared to the rest of the lineup, which came out in mid-September. People were a little confused about the iPhone 14 Plus and what that meant in the lineup. So in my opinion, even though numbers are reporting as a record low pre-order number and the amount of iPhone 14 Pluses being sold is very, very low, I do believe that there's a couple things going for this iPhone 14 Plus. Firstly, it's going to be battery life. Even though we haven't tested it too much, the battery life on this thing, because of the size and because of the technology that's on it, is going to be an amazing phone. And even Apple, during their keynote, they said that's going to be their best battery life in any iPhone. And that's because A, it's going to be the same size as the 14 and 13 Pro Max, which the 13 Pro Max at least was the best battery life ever in any iPhone. And now with the 14 Pro Max getting its 16.0.2 updates, it's getting a little bit better in battery life, but it's going to be the same size as that, so the batteries are going to be relatively the same size. But you're going to subtract things like ProMotion and that super high brightness, 2000 nit brightness technology that's in the Pro and Pro Max lineup. So you're going to have an LCD 60 Hz display on a battery that's very, very big, which should entail and should translate to much better battery life. So definitely stay subscribed because we will be doing some battery testing with the 14 Plus compared to the 14 Pro Max especially, and then we'll also compare it to the 13 Pro Max to see if it is going to be the new battery king of iPhones. And then the second thing that this iPhone has going for it is, think about who this iPhone is for. This iPhone is for the person that's just like in the middle of the year. They don't really follow the release schedule of iPhones. Their iPhone just kind of, starts slowing down or breaking down after 2 or 3 years, and they just go into their local Verizon store, their AT&T, or whatever mobile carrier they use. They go in and they just want the best iPhone for the price. So if somebody walks into an AT&T store or a T-Mobile and they see all 4 phones lined up from the front side, they're going to look at the $899 price on the larger iPhone 14 Plus and they're like, hey, this to me looks like the biggest iPhone with the cheapest price. I want this one because the Pro Max to me, I can't really justify $1,100 with just an extra camera on the back when I barely use the cameras. So like I said, this is for the person that just is looking for the biggest iPhone at the cheapest price, and they're looking for a new upgrade and they're coming from an older model like an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 6s Plus, if you guys remember those. But that is who I think this iPhone is going to be for. So don't be surprised when these numbers start to creep up in that mid refresh cycle in like March, April. You're going to see these Plus phones, these 14 Pluses, go up and up in terms of how many sales are being done. And that's just my opinion, and we'll check back on that in a few months. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below, and also sound off in the comments as to who you think this iPhone is for. Did you pick up this iPhone 14 Plus? Have you seen any of these in the wild yet? Because I'm very curious to know. This 14 Plus that we have is the first one that I've personally seen because I've not seen any of these in the wild quite yet. And it does make the camera hump on the back seem a little bit small, which is kind of funny, but that's a story for another video. But that's going to do it, everybody. If you guys want to watch some more content on iOS, iPadOS, and macOS, click on one of these videos right here. And we are working on a 14 Pro versus 13 Pro Max comparison video, which should be out relatively soon, so definitely stay subscribed. That's going to do it. I'm Fernando. I'm out of here. Peace.
Are you looking to avoid paying thousands of dollars for licensed Pro Mac apps? Well, channel sponsor Setapp is an awesome platform that makes it super easy to discover new apps and tools you need to stay efficient. There are new applications being added to Setapp regularly, so there's always more to look forward to. And in addition to all these apps being the full Pro versions, all updates to these applications are free. With Smart Search, you can simply type in a task you're looking to accomplish, and Setapp will present you with a selection of great options you can choose from to get the job done. And then you've got Collections, which gives you an assortment of pre-made app packages to help you solve a task, get more organized, and increase your productivity. And if you want to take your project off of the Mac and onto your iPhone, you're able to do so with support for compatible iOS companion applications. As opposed to paying $8,000 in licenses, Setapp is just $9.99 per month, and users can try Setapp for free for 1 week to see how well it works for you. Be sure to check out the link to Setapp in the description below, and a big thanks to MacPaw for sponsoring 9to5Mac on YouTube.